I am so excited and blessed today to be with three amazing queens. And we are going to start with introductions, and we're going to start with Dr. Maxine Mims. Would you share a little bit about who you are?
Well, I really basically don't know who I am, thank goodness. As an elder, I need to be able to have that flexibility and it, allow my imagination to create on a daily basis. But on today, who I am is a person that's very happy to be here and very honored to have been asked.
Oh, we adore you. They asked me to do this in the order of seniority. So I'm going to the
Age.
beautiful age. Thank you very much. So I'm going to the beautiful Dr. Joy Hardiman. How are you?
I am perfectly fine. And in keeping in the thread of Maxine's rhythm, who I am today is the former executive director of the Evergreen State College Tacoma campus. I was the executive director for over 20 years, and it warms my heart to have been able to participate in such a marvelous movement that was in fact started by Dr. Maxine Mims in her brilliance as part of her doctoral work into what were the best educational models and pedagogies for urban Black adults. And so she was the founder, and I was lucky enough to be the heir apparent. And so I did that work for 20 years. I'm currently the founder of Hardiman House. And Hardiman House is an urban sanctuary that is the home of ancestral artworks. And Ancestral Artworks is a creative production institute that uses ancient wisdoms to solve contemporary situations and encourages people to raw image their life and not and to be verbs and not nouns. And I am the author of the Resurrection of Truth from the Chains of Falsehood. That is my definition as of today.
As of today, y'all, we are so honored to have each of you. Each of you are just a national treasure trove of amazingness. So I am just so thrilled. Thank you for that, Dr. Joy. Dr. Arunga, how are you?
I'm well, Tracy. Thank you for having me. It is definitely, I am so junior to these amazing icons here. You know, Dr. Mims, who is the founder of Evergreen State College, Tacoma, and her successor, Dr. Hardiman, both of who have been my mentors for quite a long time. But Dr. Hardiman picked me up one day at the University of Washington campus, and we began a dialogue that has not ended. And so I am so honored to say that today I am the Dean of Evergreen State College, Tacoma. And I am really just continuing the legacy of Dr. Mims and Dr. Hardiman, trying to really celebrate the idea that this is a historically community-driven institution that was meant for the urban Black student, and to really carry that out so that Black and Brown people know they have a beacon in the hilltop of Tacoma where they can be educated and receive their BA degrees and some really important life direction. So I'm very honored for that. But in my normal life, for several decades now, I will say that I have been a cultural custodian. And that begins with my time as a student activist and a theater person. When I became on the stage, a lot of my work was done in terms of using the stage as a message for the community to understand our history, understand our culture. And so I have been doing that for some time now. And I am so honored to really bring all of that together at Evergreen. My artistry as a designer, as a stage person, all come together now at Evergreen. And it's a place of belonging for Black and Brown adult learners who have for so long been marginalized in our communities in this country. And so this is really a empowering place to be, where I can invite students to come here and be a part of this important educational institution.
I love that so much. I love everything about each of you. It is truly my honor to be leading this conversation. And just to be clear, this is a conversation. Imagine us sitting around, if we could be together and we're sipping on some tea and we're having a conversation. You all look amazing, by the way. So we're bringing this to the inaugural Juneteenth Royal Ball. And I said, can we get dolled up? And I realized y'all look dolled up every day. You ladies look beautiful all the time. This is your regular beauty. But tell us a little bit about this idea of this being a Juneteenth Royal Ball. Let's talk a little bit about Juneteenth. Some people in this audience have never heard of just learning about Juneteenth. Other people have been, celebrating it for years, for decades. What are your thoughts about Juneteenth, and why is it important that we as a community celebrate?
For me personally, you have to understand how many systems have been built and designed to keep us struggling to be together. Juneteenth is a very excellent example of that. To delay the time that you announce a concept, not the action, but you announce the concept of freedom, to delay that because of skin coloring is just obscene and vulgar. And as long as I'm alive, I want to be a part. I feel so happy to be in a state that recognizes that this is a national holiday, because it's absolutely happening now. Juneteenth is really happening today. All of these young KKK, I'm from the generation where the KKK did wear a hood. The boldness has occurred now that they're not even wearing the hood. They're so bold now in terms of dividing us and killing us that we've got to look at the symbols that allows us to say Juneteenth is important. It's important because it forces Dr. Hardiman, Dr. Arunga, Dr. Mims to talk together to our community. That's why I take the time on a Wednesday to be here. Listening to Joy and Marsha just thrills me. It just thrills me to have lived this long to hear them talking about Juneteenth. I never thought I would live to see that as a holiday. I participated, but I participated as a ritual, not as something going into my heart. I now sort of feel like it's getting closer and closer into my heart. And it's very important to me just to be alive and to experience the dialogue.
I love that. Thank you so much. Either of you have any thoughts about Juneteenth?
When I think about Juneteenth, which is just technically the second year of Emancipation Proclamation, when the people actually got on ships, boats, and sailed from Virginia all the way around to Galveston, Texas, to announce that Emancipation Proclamation had occurred and that people were actually free. This was 2 years after Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation.
The delay.
And it was heavily delayed, and it was only announced in a few places like Galveston, Texas. Most of the states in the United States were not informed and were not included in that because of the Civil War. But I think that one of the things that has amused me in the past decade, because we are celebrating Juneteenth more and more, and now it is national, but I worry about the word celebration. I think that we need to call this a commemoration, not a celebration. A celebration would imply that we were indeed made free and that we have been experiencing freedom ever since. And the truth is, we are still not free.
Right.
You know, Fannie Lou Hamer says, until all of us are free, none of us are free. And so I really want us to see Juneteenth, now that it is a national holiday, kind of like we see Martin Luther King Day, a day for working for social justice, but even more so, a day for us to learn our history and understand what Juneteenth stood for and what more has to be done so that we can really actualize Juneteenth in this country. And I'm just so proud to be an African American, a Black woman in the United States, because these are the milestones of our country that actually mark our humanity. There was a time when Black people were not even considered fully human. Can you imagine that? And that Emancipation Proclamation was actually the beginning of suggesting that maybe we had been off track by saying not fully human, that in fact we were fully human beings. And as a people, I am very proud that we have kept the United States of America to the coals and to the fire, to always understand that we have to push, struggle, work, interrogate what it is to be free in the United States of America. And it is African Americans who push that envelope, always have and always will. And for that reason, I'm very proud, but I don't think it should be a celebration. I believe it is a commemoration.
Right, I like that.
I love that.
I like that.
I
like
love that.
like that. And I'm going to just take it into a whole another place in some way, because I want to globalize it. I want to say that, first of all, I love Juneteenth because anytime Black people can get together to celebrate ourselves, our history, our humanity, our skin, our noses, our hair, our family, our swag, anytime we can get together, I am excited about it. So I like Juneteenth for that reason. But what I also thinking about Juneteenth, because of my research, is that Juneteenth is it needs to commemorate, and I like what Marcia says, not just the U.S. struggle for liberation and freedom, but the global struggle for U.S. For freedom. And so I think that basically it's a time to discover not just those ancestors that waited, but those ancestors that also ran away, the Maroon community. I just got back from Palenque, and Palenque is the oldest Black free community in the Americas, 1600. And it reminded me that for
Where is it? Where is it?
It's in Colombia. It's in Colombia, South America, which was a port by which 1 million enslaved Black people went through the port of Cartagena. And as soon as they went through it, they immediately fought for their freedom. And they didn't wait to be emancipated. They ran to the hills and they established communities, and they had people who gathered, and they were so bad that the Spanish finally made a deal with them and said, listen, we'll leave you alone if you promise not to keep coming back and raiding our houses and giving people freedom. And so that was something that they did. And how it ties into Juneteenth is that I think it's really important for me as a Black person to understand that the fight for freedom has been global. It's been in the US, it's been in Haiti, it's been in Brazil, it's been in Cuba, it's been throughout the Caribbean. And that Juneteenth then becomes just one more indication that our ancestors did not design for us to be enslaved, that our ancestors designed us to be free. And even though they tried against all odds, they tried to delay it on Juneteenth. They tried not to tell us the truth, but the truth always reveals itself, because we are people who take as our total destiny self-liberation, community liberation, and freedom. So for Juneteenth, for me, is a chance not just to celebrate the news that some white boy came and decided they were going to free us, but a chance to discuss, to celebrate all of the freedom efforts that we took to free ourselves, whether it was mentally, physically, and that it was globally, and that it is eternally. So Juneteenth says to me, I give all praises to my ancestors in Texas, but I also give all praises to my ancestors in the South Carolinas, the Gullah Geechees, the Maroon communities, this is an opportunity to celebrate that. So that's what it means for me.
I love that. I love that so much. Now, there's a bit of a theme that I heard from each of you, and this concept of community keeps coming up when we think about Juneteenth. This idea, the importance of us coming together as community. You have to be very intentional about that. So would you share anything? What would you like to share about how important it is not to wait till next Juneteenth or the next holiday, but to create community in a very intentional and organic way on a very regular basis? That's about community and how we thrive in community.
If you actually understand the Sankofa, the ancestors knew that someday a Tracy, a Joy, and a Marsha, you were prayed for, that you would come along and be able to give us the definition. We're not able to do anything until we understand what the vocabulary is. For instance, we always say blah, 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 and they were slaves, or blah, blah, blah. We'll say it ourselves. No, we were enslaved. It takes a while to get to the vocabulary to even understand who we are. We were enslaved. Once you understand you were enslaved, then you would understand the structures and the systems that kept you trying to do without. But the ancestors did, they prayed for Marsha, and they still are. So you've been paid for. What you need to do now is exactly what you see you all are doing. You're bringing that vocabulary and you're turning all of those prayers into action. That's what the Juneteenth is doing. If the Sankofa finally is flying, he finally twisted that neck around and says, I'm going to touch Marsha, I'm going to touch Maxine, I'm going to touch Joy, I'm going to touch Tracy.
I love that. Now,
So
at this point,
Sankofa has become an active verb.
I love it. Now, I got my education from Dr. Joy about a year ago, but some people are hearing the term Sankofa for the first time. And so we're going to show a little image and some various images of what Sankofas are, but who would like to define the term Sankofa for this community?
So Sankofa is a bird. It's a legendary bird of the Akan people in West Africa. So when it flies forward, the neck is always turned around, as Dr. Mims has said. And the parable that goes with the Sandinka symbols, and this is just one of many Andinka symbols, is that in order for you to know where you are going, you first need to know where you have come from. And this has been a very important bird in our history as in the United States. Many African-American communities have adopted this bird because we were told to forget about the past. And in this country, that has really served to enslave us. Because the less you know about your past, the more you cling to your oppressor and you want to be more like them because you think you don't have a worthy history. One of the things I always think of around community, and I just imagine the Sankofa bird flying with all those ships in the waters, getting us to our next destination. And when we were in those ships, we were the only people in those ships. Men and women, young and old, fat and skinny, but Black. Okay, Black people coming from Africa. We're in those ships and we had to figure out together how to survive. We had to know how to live among our feces, give birth, eat trashy food that wasn't even healthy food, and watch half of the people in the ship be thrown overboard due to sickness and disease. And we learned there how to use the spiritual strength that we had come to know. We understood what it was to sing, to pray, to cry, to do everything we had to do to survive that horrible, filthy voyage into the Americas. So I think that when we talk about community, we know what it is to be together under horrific conditions. That's what our people have known. And because of that, we can find community when we need to at any time. And I think that is the greatest strength of our people, is that we lean onto community. We know we need each other. And we celebrate each other just by the nodding of our head, just by acknowledging each other in the grocery store, saying, how you doing today, is an acknowledgement that when we were in those ships, we survived it because of each other. And that we owe it to each other to honor each other when we see ourselves.
Right. Yes, and Marcia mentioned about we survived because of the intelligence, the emotional, the DNA and stuff like that. And that's also, if you know, the Sankofa has two symbols. There's one symbol of the bird that says, go back and fetch it. You can't move forward. But the other symbol of the Sankofa is a heart. And you see them together. And the heart symbol and the bird symbol is Ghanaian. The heart symbol goes all the way back to our ancestors of the Green Sahara. This symbol for African people existed before the Sahara was a desert, in the very beginning. So what Sankofa, so when they put the symbols next to each other, what Sankofa is saying, go back and fetch it. But go back and fetch it. But what is the it? The it is the intelligence of the heart. The it is the birth of the divine mother. The it is not a cognitive Western diunital kind of adversarial stuff. It's going back to the wholeness. That's what that egg is saying right there. This is the wholeness of the heart. A heart. This contains life, just like the Ankh. It has the male principle. It has the female principle. It has the ancestors whose roots we have on. It's the children who are in the womb, all to be born. So the Sankofa is very clear about what we are to do. We are to go back and fetch it. And what we have to fetch it is the divine heart, the divine womb. And in that we are whole, we are constantly creative, and we can survive totally against all odds. No weapon formed against us can hurt us as long as we stand Sankofa, which is why that's the emblem of the Evergreen State College, is Sankofa.
The thing you have to remember though, and what I don't want a community to get lost on, that the Sankofa is physical. Going back and fetching it means to leave the external and make sure you go inside to discover the self. You cannot do with any of this. You cannot acknowledge history or anything until you go inside yourself. And the first thing that you've got to say is, I must acknowledge two B's, beauty and brilliance. When you put those two things together and go inside, there's nobody that can touch your power. I am brilliant and I'm beautiful. And then, you become your own internal. And when you talk about the egg, if you turn that upside down, let me show you something, George. Turn your symbol back up. Yeah. See the bird? The bird is there at the bottom. The heart. So the Sankofa and the heart, all that is totally together.
That's the same. Hold yours back up again.
Go inside. If you stay outside, you will give the power to the pale people. You change the name in your own being of white and start using the word pale. Once you use the word pale, then you are acknowledging the Sankofa. You can't keep looking at these symbols and not acknowledging them. That Sankofa has to get inside of you. It just can't be out here Juneteenth. We want to commemorate these things, but you have to internalize that so that your imagination can grow with that intellect and the power comes all to you.